Hello everyone and welcome back to the middle of nowhere. I'm Chase.
And I'm Joby.
And this is the Overrun.
This is the 2023 Subaru WRX. This one, as configured online with Subaru's Configurator, is about $38,000 with delivery included. There are a couple of main competitors to the WRX, one of them being the Volkswagen GTI SE trim, which comes out to around $36,000. The other one being the Hyundai Elantra N, which comes around $32,000. So this one is pretty competitively priced with its other competitors.
So let's talk about what powers the Subaru WRX. Obviously, it's an engine. It's the tried and true boxer 4-cylinder engine that Subaru has used forever, paired with a symmetrical all-wheel drive system that is constant full-time all-wheel drive, unlike a lot of its competitors. As we know, both the GTI and the Elantra N are front-wheel drive. Now, as for power, as this car sits here, Subaru claims 271 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. The big X factor with all-wheel drive when we're talking about performance obviously is added weight. Luckily, this new generation of WRX is not only stiffer, but it is lighter as well. New aluminum pieces on the fenders make it 5 pounds lighter at the front end, in addition to some other changes, results in a curb weight of 3390. As for the GTI, so that we all have a little bit of context here, we are looking at 241 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. Now the GTI is obviously a little bit lighter too. Car and Driver weighed the car and it came in at 3154. With that in mind, I think that it is time to hop inside and talk about some of what you get with the WRX Limited trim.
This is the nicest Subaru WRX you can buy, short of getting the GT trim. This one is pretty much fully loaded, has these really nice suede seats, really good carbon fiber bits all throughout, really nice leather wrapped steering wheel, 4 cup holders, 2 of them being stanced, one being taller than the other, and a super nice and very large infotainment system with a big screen.
Now, the infotainment system in all of these Subarus is relatively new and updated, but we do have some complaints with it. It's a little bit laggy, as you can see. It's just a little slow. Some of the icons take quite a while to load, like that. If we tab over to this little toolbar here, it's actually pretty useful, and you can get through nav and some climate control and engine options, as well as some weather. But my big issue is with Android Auto and CarPlay and any sort of phone mirroring software, because when you go to do that, what happens is the phone does not fully project onto the screen. What will happen is that it loads and then leaves this big blank space down below. And so your aperture for phone projection is very, very small. And it sort of forces you into using the factory infotainment system if you need a larger map. I have really good vision and was kind of struggling to see icons on the map. So it's not great. It's certainly a massive improvement over Subaru's old stuff, but it's also in need of some tweaking.
All right, now in the back seat here of the WRX, there's a couple of things to talk about. For starters, let's start with this. I'm 5'9", so we're gonna go through all the measurements here, but got a pretty good amount of headroom and a lot of room in between me and the passenger front seat. We also have 2 nice cup holders right here, good for throwing drinks in or whatever. And then we also have 2 USB-A ports down here at the bottom for some connectivity. Both the windows back here are auto up and down, which is nice. There's also some drawer cards that have cup holders in them as well. And there's also some nice back pocket storage behind the front seat. So a lot of good stuff here. And the same faux leather and faux suede continues here in the back. It's not only a feature of the front seat.
Now, the WRX being a sedan and not a hatchback as compared to the Volkswagen GTI is a little bit of a drawback, but it's not the end of the world. There's still a ton of room in the trunk. We've got a couple backpacks here for scale. This is our medium-sized camera bag backpack, and we've also got our little Meguiar's detailing bag that we use to clean the cars. There's plenty of room. I can even make my way back here without too much of an issue and fit with all of this other stuff in the trunk. So it's really not all that bad. You do lose out not having the hatch, but the Elantra N is largely the same story. It's still a very practical car. Now, obviously, this WRX is very new, and one of the more controversial aspects of its newness has been the way that it looks. Specifically, this nonsense right here. In person, I don't actually think it's nonsense. Odds are, by now you've seen one on the road and you've kind of developed your own opinions. Personally, I think it's okay. I'm happy that these are at the very least real vents. And Subaru claims that it reduces drag. Frankly, it doesn't matter. What it really does is it makes the car look quite a lot taller, doesn't it?
Yeah, and one of the things that I said right when we very first jumped into the car is that it honestly looks like just a lowered version of an SUV that Subaru would make. But it's not actually really that tall. It's just because of the styling and the way that all of the design flows together. It just makes the car appear much higher than it really is.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Subaru WRX wilderness.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the paint. I like the paint. It's tough to see here on camera, but there's actually a good bit of metal flake in the paint, and it sparkles a lot in the sun. I like it. There's also a really good spread of colors. They have the World Rally, blue, pearl that everybody gets. Yep. I still think that that's the color to get. I don't know. There's a white one around where I live, and I kind of like the look of it. I think that the car probably looks best when this is as hidden as possible.
Yes. Yeah.
I would just call this a $40,000 car and have somebody paint them, but that's just me.
Yeah, you could definitely do that. There's also a red color that Subaru has made for a really long time, specifically for the WRX, that one of my neighbors also has, and it looks fine. I think the array of colors that they offer is great, but obviously most of these are going to be in maybe some weird wacky color like this, or the World Rally blue, which is the one to get, to be honest. Okay, now for my driving impressions of the WRX. This is kind of freeballing it. I haven't scripted anything out, so just bear that in mind when you're hearing me ramble on and on about different driving dynamics of the car. First and foremost, obviously this is a manual transmission car, so you have to shift through the gears like most manual transmission cars. And with the WRX, I personally really enjoy it. I actually like the shifter feel quite a bit. The clutch is rather light, kind of like the Miata, not as light as the Miata, but rather light, and it's really easy to find your bite points, when shifting. And rev matching is incredibly easy and intuitive, even for someone who doesn't drive stick all that often like myself. And then obviously we have the all-wheel drive system, which Subarus have had for decades at this point now, and is really what has made them so popular, especially in a place like Colorado. Now, in terms of street driving, the all-wheel drive system really allows for maximum grip, especially through cornering. In some of these twisty mountain roads, you can really step on it, but also have a lot of confidence and grip when going through a tight corner or just some twisty, bendy roads, which makes this car really, really exciting to drive, and just adds to the overall enjoyment of the car. In terms of ride comfort, again, this is where Chase and I are going to differ a little bit, but I actually really enjoy the ride quality. I'm going pretty slow right now, about 25-ish miles an hour, and the car is incredibly smooth and comfortable, at least for, me being 26. If I was maybe an old man or something, that might be different, but I think it's rather comfortable. The seats offer plenty of support. In our drive up here, I didn't feel any discomfort at all. So yeah, overall, driving the WRX, in my opinion, is quite enjoyable, and especially for the price point, I think it is a pretty good buy.
So the Subaru WRX, this car's a bit of an icon, isn't it? It's obviously seen quite a lot of controversy since Subaru made the effort to redo the WRX for a new generation, and having driven a few previous WRXs, I can say that the changes make sense. The car does feel a lot more structurally rigid. I do kind of wish the ride was just a little bit softer, especially at low speeds. I feel like the compression and rebound rates are just a little bit too harsh for my liking. I would prefer just a little bit more softness, because this is kind of a car that everybody who buys one drives one every day, especially here in Colorado. You have the all-wheel drive system, which is phenomenal for that kind of stuff. It's really great to be able to have that confidence, and that's especially true on some nice twisties like this. I know that the car is going to stay really, really, really neutral. The kind of general preference in the way that this car likes to go through things is it stays super neutral, and the best way to drive through a corner is to brake really late and get on the accelerator post apex and let the all-wheel drive system and the differentials just pull you out. We didn't touch on steering too much. I think that you can tell where the wheels are, and while the feel is not super fantastic, it is more than enough for me to be able to get some real work done. I feel confident in the car's abilities, and I don't really have any real issues with that. The power band is fantastic. I love, love, love the power band. It feels very old school. Subaru says that it got rid of a lot of the lag, which is marketing hogwash. There is nothing below 3,000 RPM, and it's kind of fun that way. It feels like, you know, a turbocharged car from 15, 20 years ago in that way, and I really like that. I think it sounds great too. It has that iconic Boxster sound, even here in the cabin. It doesn't get boomy at highway speeds either. The daily drivability is fantastic. My minor gripes about the ride aside, I really only have one final complaint to leave you with, and that, again, is the shifter feel. I just think that it could be much improved, and I wish the driving position were just a little bit lower. But other than that, the WRX is what it has always been, a fantastic, confidence-inspiring driving experience that remains just accessible enough for you to really, really enjoy it on some public roads.
And now for the conclusions of the 2023 Subaru WRX. For me personally, I guess the first thing I'll touch on is the driving experience. Overall, I really like the shifter feel. The steering is just heavy enough for me, which I was not expecting this car to have heavy steering at all. The all-wheel drive system, which is, you know, all the time, is great. Handles super, super well and has a ton of grip through corners, which in the Rocky Mountains, there are a ton of very twisty and windy roads. So this is definitely a fun car to drive here in Colorado. And overall, just the all-wheel drive system adds to the practicality. Obviously, it's sunny right now, but as we all know in Colorado, it snows, and so the all-wheel drive system offers a really, really nice peace of mind for those winter drives. But
yeah, I do have some stuff I disagree with you on there. Obviously, the all-wheel drive is great for year-round practicality. I think if you live in a snowier climate like we do, the WRX GTI answer is definitely a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I don't love the shifter feel. I think that the pedal placement is great. I think the seating position is okay, if a little high, but the shifter feel is just not super awesome. I think that it's a little bit rubbery. The throws are perfectly short, but you can just tell that there's a lot of plastic rubber nonsense going on in the action. Thankfully, this car's been out for a little while. The shifter is fundamentally likely the same as the previous generation WRX, so it's probably a very easy problem to fix. All in all, you know, for $38,000, I would probably buy one. Yeah. I wouldn't have an issue with it. I like the way it drives. I like the way it sounds. WRX hot boy stereotypes aside, it's a really great car at a really, really fairly competitive price point.
Yes, definitely. And the interior is really good with the exception of the infotainment system, but overall, it's a really, really nice interior. So if you have kids or whatever and you want something nice and practical, this is a really good car. And like Shay said, I think it's definitely something that, you know, we could see buying ourselves or recommending to somebody else given, you know, the proper circumstances.
Yeah, totally. So as always, thank you so very much for watching. Do please remember to hit that like button. It's annoying to hear it at the end of every YouTube video, but it really does help us out and keep making this content.
All right, thank you all so much. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.